Overflow not a problem. Okay, I think that looks pretty good now. What we see there is the bottom part of the Torus. Yeah, we'll check when it will sink in a little bit. That's our trial now. So a few minutes later we can see that it was a little bit sinking in, the water went up. Now this is the first time we are trying this new mold, and this time we didn't put any sand. We're just gonna leave the metal shape inside to leave the hollow space which we need to put the column in the middle of this ring. But the first one, in order to remove that metal, is not going to be easy. I will open the mold here and I will slice it with a grinder. I will just cut the ring in two parts, and then it will go off probably from the metal inner circle much more easy, and the concrete cement ring will be reassembled around the base of the column's shaft, and just put a little bit of mortar. This is the first time we're going to try it like this. So here we are about 12 hours later. We can see that the concrete was a little bit sinking in. Not much, but that difference in the height will be compensated by mortar, because this is going to be the lower side of the cast item, and there will be anyhow a thin layer of mortar to add. Now, because there's no hurry to use that part for our construction, I will just leave it in the mold still a few more hours, let it harden further, and add a little bit of water. Oh, it's in plain sun. I will just start to release some of these butterfly screwed bolts. They go off very easy because we have been putting some engine oil on these, and they are anyhow not necessary to be bolted very strongly. So here I have now my tool to try to, you see it's going off so easy. That's nice news. So I don't do much more, I just leave that little crack there and put some more water, so that water can enter all around the item, and do the same thing on the other side. Yeah. This is stainless steel. So now I do something which I shouldn't do. I'm a little bit hammering just on the balls' heads without destroying them. Now same thing with this side. You can see it's really going off immediately. Very encouraging, but I will still rather my balls are also easy going outside. Now use again this. Okay. Side here it is still a little bit stuck. Oh, it's going off completely easy. Now I will not refrain from removing that thing completely. Was supposed to be a trial, but the trial turns out to be successful. The item looks pretty nice inside. So let's try to get the new cast item, the first one made with this mold, out of the mold without destroying anything. Okay. Now this side is already gone. Here it's a little stuck because of my balls, which are located around there. Okay, so here we have the mold, which is all okay. There's nothing glued to it. It was successful. I will move this one forward because we have some balls here. So I have to move a little bit my original here, because I have put some screws here on my steel plate, which are very useful, but not in this moment. So I have to free my original from the mold by a little bit going around these boards. Oh, here I can move forward. It would go very easy if I wouldn't have put these boards. We may have to remove them. So here is the second half of the mold gone. I'm very satisfied already. Now I can tell you when I look at the result. I put this on the side too, and have a look at the result. Now this is upside down, of course, and I will have to turn it around to make it more easy to understand what is the purpose of this item. Now I can remove the stones, which have been only in the middle of this mold, because we want the mold to be well centered, especially the inner part, which is that steel ring, which is the hollow space where the shaft of the column is going to pass. Now, if we know everything from the beginning, we should have made our shaft only high like this maybe, and then fit that thing over it. We never did this till now because we wanted to progress and that mold was not ready. So now I have that little problem to solve it is how will I remove this metal without damaging the ring. So my decision now is just to cut it with a grinder and make a clean cut at least, instead of having some damages if I would hammer this item. Now one thing I can do now is just turn it around and show you how nice it looks. Let's do this. Now let's try. My goodness, I can lift it. That's okay. So I will now rotate this item. And I don't want to damage it, so I have to very carefully put it down. And lower it back on the metal ring, which is in the center. So I succeeded to do it without destroying it. That's nice. Now here you can see the excess cement, which was building up because there's a slight level problem on this metal part, but doesn't matter. Now this is our top. This is our top. Here there are some small damages which we will have to plaster, but the main shape is there and well enough done. So here we are now making some close-ups. I can see that the available space inside the torus, that is this round thing here called torus. I mean basically this part is called torus, but I call the column shaft base, is 45 centimeters. So that will be fine because our concrete columns are 40 large maximum. And as a reminder, this is a plaster model which is cracked, and this is the base plate which is also split and not level now. That's why it looks a little bit like after an earthquake. This is where our item will go, and this is the 40 size column shaft. So there will be a space like this one visible when we will position our new cement concrete base instead of that plaster. Back to my first molded column shaft base. Here we can see that because the cement now is really still very fresh, I can even with a regular small blade like this eliminate the excess of the molds parts. Sides here you see that is just going to be a little hand job to brush it away, but I will have to cut it because, as I said, I decided to leave the metal inside this time because I just wanted to make it more easy to cast the item, but for removing the item from the steel is now going to be the little issue. Next time we may just put the steel when the concrete is still wet and fill this with sand and then pull the steel out. That may be allowing us to get the same result and having just sand to remove here instead of that steel, and then we don't need to cut this. But anyhow, my columns are so high now already that I don't want that we have to climb up a few meters just to slide this thing over the column and bring it back down to the ground level where it has to be. Now let's have a look more close. You see the surface is super smooth, very nice. This shape is just what I need, and here is the damage, and it just happened now when I was a little bit shaking my mold parts, which you see here, too much, and then since this concrete is just less than 12 hours drying, that made this little damage. But we're gonna put some cement and then with the fingers make that congé, it is called congé, perfect again. Now you see that the part which was visible at the beginning of my video about this here, where you could see the bottom of it, now you see there is a slight problem here that this is not even level, but we're gonna fill this, of course, later, just with plaster. Oh, I see that here's this famous screw which I was putting, which is definitely something I will not need. I will have to cut it off, and then I can remove my mold parts also more easy, because I have the same screw here. Why did I put these screws initially? Because I thought that my mold will have to have some plates so that I can fix it in case the mold will lift up, but this shape is in no need of having anything to screw it to the ground plate, because it's not lifting up. It's the weight of the concrete is actually pushing the mold down, which is not always the case with other molds, when the shape towards the bottom is in a way that the concrete will try to escape from the mold through the bottom and then lift up the mold. We had this problem with the other one, which was for the top part, and then that's why we have these screws. So this is a little bit side explanation, but if somebody wants to build this, he can listen to my advice and succeed to do it easy. So our beautiful column base has been sliced. No worries, this is all going to be invisible once the two parts will have been sealed on the final position with mortar, and later this thing is supposed to be painted with a color covering the concrete. Now I switched the tools because that blade is very narrow. I need to still prepare the slice a little bit more deep. Here we can see that the concrete is basically completely cut except for a small area here, so this is no more danger that that thing will crack on another place and make more work to reassemble it. The same thing needs to be done now on the other side, which is here. I will now cut the other side of the cast item with the small blade first. You can notice here that the cut was super easy, basically like cutting a slice of bread with a knife. Now I will use the larger tool to finish the cut more in deepness. Now that the cuts are done on both sides, we can try to split this in two parts now by getting out that metal ring in the middle. I will not hammer anything outside. I will just first try to maybe dislocate the metal by vibration with the hammer here. Also very careful. Now I see it went off. Here's a split starting. I will make a close-up. You can see that the concrete actually moved down. It moved. It is no more gluing to the steel plate inside. So if I would now very gently split this thing open, you can see that the two parts are now. Oh, this one I would not squeeze too early. I rather try to break this off. There we go. So this means that I succeeded to remove it. I will now lift it up with my two hands, one by one. Now it's the first time I'm casting this item here, and therefore I'm double careful because I do not know yet how this item reacts when it is not 100% dried. You can see here that I succeeded to dislocate it. You can see that I cut it there and there. There's no big rock. We choose the small split stones to cast this one. Maybe also sand would have been enough. Here is a possibility to see the molded item still on the metal frame. So now comes the nice part of the work, which is to put it for the first time in the right spot. Now look at my smashed plaster model. It's totally destroyed. There was rain and something crashed on it. Now this item has been fulfilling its mission. It was just to give me an idea about the proportions of everything, which have to be elaborated for the first time. I'm just dropping this now, sorry. This is still a little bit holding because there's some coconut fiber rope in there. Now let's clean this up. You may notice that this is just ordinary concrete. Yeah, it is like this. We don't have now enough financial capabilities to put here some great marble piece block of stone or something much better. But the concrete will be recovered with a slight layer of mortar before I will a little bit scratch it, so it's better gluing. And then this thing is going to be having another color, which will look far better. So don't think that this is going to be a concrete column in the looks. It is actually, but it's not going to look like it. Okay, now I will just place this one for the first time on this quite level surface. Now slowly for the video also, and to not damage anything. You see here, I will still push away that. Now basically the classical rules, which are so easy to follow, just want that this thing here, the torso outside, this is a torso, is not going beyond the base plate. So I just have to push it here. It's not that heavy, but it's a little bit sticking. So you see here we have that situation that now with a little bit of covering still, or with some mortar, basically this thing is going to be just right. And of course I need to put this part on the other side, and this now is very dark. It doesn't matter because it's going to have anyhow another color, later maybe painted, but this is going to be white, completely white cement like this, or like this. This is actually the same mixture. So already as a concrete, it's not going to be black like this. And here we look at this edge only. This one is not yet on the right dimension on purpose. We will now mortar and plaster this concrete column till this line here, which is the congé. I will make a close-up to explain you this now. So here are the close-ups now on the work. You can see here in profile that my torso is slightly still going over the edge. You can see like 1 centimeter maybe. I think I will more or less leave it in this way when the parts will be assembled with a mortar to be able to cover that cement base or concrete base without going over the edge. So when all this will be really finished, the layer here will be just right to respect that rule of the ancient masters. Now if it's going a little bit over the edge, who cares? Now here you can see the same situation is going, because I had to measure all this before. There is a little bit too much inside. I will just have to push that part more to the left. Now here I come to the other explanation, which is interesting and good to know. You see, this is the concrete shaft, which is 40 centimeter in this case here of diameter. Now that thing is of course larger, and there's a space here, and this is supposed to be filled with the mortar, and then the covering of this concrete shaft will be exactly going alongside this straight leveled line, which you can see here, up to the first third of its height. The entire height of the column shaft is 3 meters and something, and it is only to the first third of its height that the mortar will be actually applied completely straight, because that is also a rule that the down part of the column of this kind, called Tuscan, and also some other versions of ancient Greek and Roman columns, is on the base part, first third, actually just straight, and then it is slowly decreasing in size till the top, where the so-called capital is going to be lifted, and up there should be 40 centimeters only, because this is somehow the right proportion from the bottom dimension towards the upper dimension. And I already said before that this decrease in size towards the top is not just a straight line, but it is actually an ellipse, which follows also certain rules, because it's decreasing progressively, and the whole thing will look very elegant once you understand what they want to get with this elliptical decrease instead of just making a straight line. That's all about the organic feel, I guess, these ancient people had when they built the first houses with columns in wood. The trees were of course usually not the same dimension on the bottom as they are on the top. Now, more the column is high, more this becomes obvious. A tree is also more large on the bottom than on the top, except if it is recut. Okay, now I think I can just now here are the little damages. This is my mistake when I unmolded it. So that is actually like this coming out of my mold. So I'm really happy. That was the first one of this one I made other ones before, and maybe I will find someday a way how to do it smarter. Then I don't need to use these big grinding machines, which I actually avoid to use because they're always dangerous, and especially when I use them without any safety clothing. So I will now just put some water on it and edit this video and put it online for you. So here we are, watering the concrete. And this is not a joke. This is for the fresh molded cement concrete cast parts to still react further to become more hard, and that's why we water them, to avoid that they get dry too fast, because that will slow down or stop the chemical reaction inside the concrete to really make it stone hard, because now it's just sandstone hard. We are at least less than 16 hours from the moment this was still liquid. Okay, now I will take back my molds, which I have been putting here just for display purposes, so that we can already prepare them for the next cast. We have so many of these things to do. I'm a little bit brushing that because there's a kind of thin layer of the engine oil on top of this still, which stops the water from easily soaking into the concrete. So I think that will be enough. We have to do this several times to allow the concrete to really harden best. Our little workshop area for the casting. Now all I need to do is remove that little bit of cement here on top. Easy to do. I have to clean my ring and put some new oil on it and brush off this excess of cement. You can start it all over again. I'll cut these balls, they are disturbing. So next time I'll still do one more video when this will be a second time used. Then I will not have these little balls on the side anymore, which I have put for safety reasons, but there's no need for these anymore. That's a very fat steel plate which doesn't bend when I hammer it with a small hammer like this. And this is enough for the next round.